Hello, welcome back to another episode of Awakening with Soul Inspirational. I'm Tish, and today I thought I would pick from my Oracle, my Chakra cards, and just gonna shuffle them and see what comes up. So, well, that's a nice one. Sorry about that there. But a card jumped out, and this is the card Joy. And when we look at the card, we can see, the sunflower on the woman. The outline of the card is yellow, which takes us to the solar plexus. The solar plexus being the diaphragm area. Generally speaking, the solar plexus will represent, one is the color yellow, but we think about the element of fire. The sun is also represented within the solar plexus. And I'm just going to put my glasses so I can see how the artist, it's actually really lovely. I'm going to get a little closer here. So the woman on the card, her eyes are closed. So it looks like she's really enjoying it. And again, you can see the full sunflower and where the center of is right there at her solar plexus. And it's interesting because when I see this, for those of you that have been part of my meetup group, for a few years before I moved into town, I would have what I called a day or an afternoon of joy. And we would dance, we would do mindful walks with just the intention of joy. So as we walked in my front yard, it was just all about any thoughts that pertain to joy. And oftentimes, most of us would find ourselves with our eyes closed, like the lady on the card, and just feel the joy as we walked. This actually really makes my heart smile, just looking at the card, remembering the afternoon of joy. And her arms and her hands are up, and that tells me the freedom, the liberation. So the fists aren't clenched, the arms aren't crossed. She's just in this place of joy within her. So whether we see the hands open as a way of surrender, a way of release, it's also when the arms and the hands are open, we're open to receive. So, and when we're in the state of joy, we are also in a higher vibration as well. So, being in that higher vibration when we are manifesting things, when we are healing, when we're trying to make progress or to evolve in life, it's easier in those moments where we can find that joy. So I'm even thinking about the gratitude, I'm so grateful for my grandbabies. I just saw them and the joy that they bring me. Same thing with my kids, with the work that I'm so blessed to be able to do. It's joyful. And of course, we can't look at this and not look at the symbolism of sunflowers. And I know there are some people that really resonate with the sunflowers, and it reminds me of the sun card in tarot as well. And I just when I see a sunflower, it just reminds me of the sun, right? With those big yellow leaves. And the newness, the joy that it brings, the warmth that it beats down over us. Even if we're stuck inside here in Ohio, where, in the middle of winter time, we just feel better when the sun is out, because sometimes it feels like we don't get quite enough of those days. And when the sun is out, even though it's cold, we don't want to maybe go out or do anything, the sun somehow lifts us up, right? And there's, finding joy in that as well. And you know what? As I look at this, I know that there are other meanings to the sunflower as well. And if you gravitate with sunflowers, you can just look up, Google spiritual meaning of sunflowers. But to me, it brings not necessarily newness from my perspective, because they're already grown. But I just feel a fullness of life when I see sunflowers. They make many of us happy. And I think about, as I'm driving around different places, when you can see those big, beautiful sunflowers, it's like they're waving at you. They're just sending their joy to you as you pass by, like they're just waving joy, waving love. So how beautiful is that? So looking at this, I'm going to focus a little bit more on the yellow with the solar plexus. When we're looking at the solar plexus, when we focus in on it, it is our place of confidence, self-worth. Our willpower is anchored within the solar plexus. When our stomachs are knotted because of something that has happened to us, maybe somebody recently said or did something and the stomach's in a knot, it's kind of hard to find joy, right? So it's how can we move out of that place to get back to a state of joy? When we're in a state of joy, when we think about the solar plexus, one of the other things I think about is the digestive tract. As we are bringing nutrients in, it starts to hit the digestive tract, and it does what the digestive tract does. When we think about that on a spiritual sense, if we are bringing things in, people's thoughts, words, opinions, the digestive tract may be a little off. And in fact, what happens around us, what affects us emotionally or mentally, can absolutely affect our digestion. So if we use the power of the solar plexus by tapping into our own internal power, you can think of the sun, or the fire element. So if somebody's words, they're so caught up within you, you can just close your eyes and imagine a fire and take those words or those actions from others and throw them into the fire. You can do the same thing if you have said unkind words to yourself. You can do the same thing. Now, if you said unkind words to somebody else, I would suggest finding the time, to apologize. But then when it's time for forgiveness, for release, send that kind of energy into the fire, or send it up to the sun, because the sun would clearly burn that away. So it's like a disintegration. When we bring something in, we are integrating it. We're bringing it into the being. And it's how far are we going to allow it to go, and how deeply are we going to allow it to affect us? So we can work on cleansing, on disintegrating, releasing that energy that doesn't serve us, and getting back to our joy. And seeing the love, the beauty of joy. All right, so let me see. I'm going to pull out another one and see if another card pops out. And maybe there will be a correlation. We'll see. All right, so very interesting. So this card is called Creation. I don't know how well you can see here. Just let me get my glasses on so I can see a little better here. Wow, I love this picture for so many different reasons. All right. So if we look at her, so that would be her left hand. How she has, whether you want to see that as a crystal, just emanating, to me, seeing the white makes me think of, divine light. When I see the feathers to her side there, by the side of her face, and I think, it's like her headband there with the flowers, with the feathers. So that brings shaman energy for me to mind. And being near the tree of life, creation. in watching as this light, I've got some glare in there as well, but the light emanating from her hand, kind of wrapping up and then, above her, then around the tree it looks like there. And in the background, those look like birds when you're looking at it. Seeing a red that she's wearing would be, that shows me the root chakra, which is the element of earth, our foundation, our fight or flight responses. But when we are manifesting things, it's important to tap into the root chakra. So whatever it is that we're visualizing something that, we're manifesting, we want to bring that imagery all the way down through and into the root chakra. So oftentimes when I'm working with clients, I'll work, whatever it is they're manifesting or visualizing, we'll work it through the chakras until we get down into the root. And again, in the earth element, if you think hip to hip, I'll ask people to visualize that's their soil. And we'll look at, what does the soil look like? Is it dry? Is it saturated? Does it feel nice and balanced? Because when we can bring the energy of whatever it is that we're manifesting down into the earth to root it within the base of the spine, the root chakra. And there is, like her sleeves are yellow. I don't know how well you can see that. But as I see the yellow on her sleeves, it brings me back up to the solar plexus chakra. That place of personal power, of making good decisions, having confidence in oneself. So I feel as though, even though this is of earth, that this is something that we're creating, even though it may also be something spiritual, but as we are creating, it's having the self-confidence, knowing that we have what it takes within us. Tapping into our own personal power to see things to fruition and knowing that we deserve for things to happen. So let's say that we're manifesting a new job, knowing that we're good enough, although I really don't like that, good enough, because I feel so stunted when I think good enough, Should I go further? Because it's enough, right? So anyway, so you have all that you need. It may be a new field, so you may have to start at entry level. It may be that it's in the same field, but it's a little bit different that you're doing. Just trust and know that your intelligence, your intellect has gotten you this far, and that you'll be able to learn whatever it is, the new departments that you may be going into. When I see this as well, by seeing the red of her cloak or of her robe, feeling the earth energy, again in her left hand, which many see that as the spiritual hand, as we see whether that is a crystal within her hand, but emanating that beautiful divine light, that brings together both manifesting, creating with God or the divine, and bringing it here onto the earth so we can see it physically in our own world. The shaman energy that I feel when I look at this. Now, the booklet may have a different interpretation. I'm just winging it by intuition. When I see the feathers right there at the side of her head, so again, like a headband that she's wearing. So that reminds me of shaman energy. So sometimes as we are manifesting, as we are creating a new future for ourselves, it may be that there is a level of healing that needs to take place before we can actually see what it is that we're manifesting, before it does come to fruition. So if you've been working on, setting your goals and taking the steps in order to be able to achieve your goals. So again, maybe it's a different career field. Maybe it's starting your own business. Maybe, you're single and, you're manifesting a healthy relationship into your life. whatever it is that you are creating, whatever it is that you are trying to manifest. Again, it shows me the above and below, the divine and the earth, the spiritual and the physical, but also that sense of healing. And that too, the feathers are to her left, which again, to me, brings about the spiritual side. So there may be something within us spiritually for healing. It could be as we are creating whatever this life is ahead of you, that it's that co-creation. It's that co-creation with the divine to bring in things that are healthy and wonderful for me. Because when we look at this, in some ways I can look at this and say, oh, it almost feels cold on one sense, but we see the green grass in the background. And when we look at her cloak or her robe, you know, it doesn't feel overweighted. It feels like it is what is needed for comfort. So knowing of the green grass behind us, again, the earth element, the tree, you know, knowing that how long it takes for a tree to give us shade. And of course, depending on the tree, depends on how long that may take. I look at the trees on my property sometime and I'm just amazed that 20 years, how much they have grown and how beautiful and how much shade they offer. How many birds may be nesting, squirrels up in the tree. It's just, and we have black walnut trees and how much the squirrels love those. So again, the creation, life. I just love it. So, and then as I'm bringing both of these together, both the creation and then the joy card. And I know it's kind of, I've got the elephant behind me today, so I don't know if it's better to see over here. But feeling that joy as we're creating. It could also be whatever it is that we have created, that we're experiencing the joy of it now. How beautiful is that? And again, we're at full moon energy tonight too, which is a great time to release things that no longer serve us, to let things go, which I feel, you know, with the hands up in the air, that surrender, just letting go of. And our hands are just wide open as well. Because when we are holding on to things that no longer serve us, not only are they taking up mental space in the mind, it may be taking up energy within our body as well. Maybe weighing us down or making our energy just seem lower. But when we have the excitement of creation, whatever that is before us, you know, you're creating a new family, a new life for yourself. Maybe you were recently divorced and now you are creating a new life ahead for yourself, for your kids. That is beautiful. That there's such hope in that. And yeah, there's you know, maybe some level of anxiety, the uncertainty, maybe being not sure-footed, but then actually, as I'm saying, you know, where you may not feel sure-footed, I'm reminded of this with the earth in the background, that wherever you walk, there will be a foundation under your feet. Which brings me back to joy. With the sunflowers, as they grow, you know, I can see in both of these cards, you know, both the sunflower and the tree, it takes time. The sunflower doesn't grow to its tallest height overnight, neither does a tree. So be patient as we are creating. You know, I'm thinking about the different earth elements as well. So if you are creating, think about how you can bring in the earth, the air, the fire, the wind. How can you bring in different elements? The sun, as we talked about, even with the solar plexus energy. So make room, get rid of the old stuff. And again, it's September, harvest it out. Time to get rid of that old stuff. So, and when we are harvesting, and I can only talk about this in a more truer sense for myself because I rarely ever do. I have a garden, but this year we did a garden. And I'm seeing how the garden is kind of winding down some. But I think about when we turn the garden over for the season, when we till it, the nutrients from what has been there growing, what grew throughout the season, whatever's going to be turned over, that adds richness to the soil, just like with our previous experiences. So if, maybe you're somebody going through a divorce, you get to take the experiences of that past marriage forward with you, the learning lessons. How can this enrich my life? What are the good parts of it? What were the lessons learned? What do I know to avoid? Or what do I want to attract within my life? So we can take that which had already been, we can till it, mull it over, and use that as an enrichment for whatever we're creating going forward. Again, bringing us to a sense of joy. And it may be that it's next season before we actually see the sunflowers rise up again, but knowing that even though it takes time, like the sunflower and the tree, that we're going to get there. We're going to get there. You have the power of creation within you. All of us do. We're not just human beings. We're not just physical beings. We're also beings of light. We're spiritual beings, beings of God, the divine, however you see it. So it isn't just what we can physically see that we are creating. It is also what we are calling upon God to help us. For those of you that work with guides or angels, call upon them. Ask them for their help in whatever it is that you are creating. Heal, again, the feathers. Heal that. And actually, as I said feathers that time, I'm reminded of, even a different perspective, flying, looking down. So seeing things from that different perspective. There are some times when we are creating that it's beneficial to kind of pull away and get a bird's eye view of things. We can't see the forest through the trees, right? So if we just pull up like a bird above the trees, where we can see the larger picture of what's going on, it may help us for whatever it is that we are creating, which again brings us back to joy. I love it. Love it. So, okay, and I'm not talking about the color around because I forgot what this deck, I guess I can look real quick if that is the crown chakra, but let me double check here since I've got just a couple of minutes left. Yes. So it looks like they are considering this. It's interesting. So this one is being the crown chakra, the spiritual one, which makes sense, which is why I figure that's probably what that was attached to. And even as I'm saying that with the crown chakra, open up your crown. Just imagine, close your eyes, imagine your crown chakra opening up. That beautiful divine light above you. As you inhale, imagine bringing that divine light straight on down, allowing it to lovingly penetrate your crown chakra. And then you can imagine just pulling that divine light throughout your entire being. And as you're doing so, set the intention of what it is that you're creating. So once again, if you're starting out new from a divorce, or maybe you're going on to college, this new life that's ahead of you. Maybe you're one of your youngest child is moving out of the house and you're going to be an empty nester. What is it that you want to create? And thinking about empty nesters, because I am one now. Sometimes we don't know what we don't know, right? Well, we don't know what we don't know. But when we think about being an empty nester where we've gone and having the kids and they've kept us busy and occupied, right, besides whatever work we already do, it's the shift. So it may be that this creation is even bringing you back to what you did. Think about what you did in your youth, what you really enjoyed. Maybe you loved painting or sewing or singing. Get back into those things. Pull those things out. Who knows what the end result of your creation will be? But when we start somewhere, and I think about the Wizard of Oz, we got to start somewhere. So, I think Linda said something about, I think it's always best to start at the beginning. So we start there and we open up. We set the intention of what it is that we want to see, what we want to create within our lives. Enjoy the process of whatever it is that you're creating. Be open to it. Know that it's going to take some time. You probably won't see whatever you're creating overnight, but I would argue, isn't that part of the beauty? Again, talking about the garden, it wasn't, yes, I felt a little impatience once we planted the seeds, where it's like, okay, it's going to take a little while, but I felt like a little kid. But then watching little by little the different plants just, penetrating the soil. And you know what? This year, we planted green peppers. And they are just the cutest things when they're growing. I think Brussels sprouts are too. I know I'm kind of weird, but my Brussels sprouts didn't grow. I'm going to try them again though, since it's September. I don't know. But the green peppers, I'm not a big green pepper person, but my husband really likes them. So we have a few green pepper plants, and they're just so cute. So not only is it just, watching as they penetrate the soil, and watching them grow. It's like there's this giddiness, this joy just watching them. And then as they get taller and taller, and ours really, we didn't have things didn't grow as large as we would have, and maybe the way that we perceived, but we still found such joy in it. And then when I am picking a pepper off the plant, say that 3 times fast, it's exciting. I don't know. So anyway, creation, think about what it is you like to create, open up, release the stuff you no longer need, tilling up the soil, keep the good stuff that we learn from, and find the joy in everything that you do. So thank you so much for watching today's episode. If you have any questions, please contact me. Otherwise, until next time, thank you, be well, and namaste.